Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag. From the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
Well, John, you and I both witnessed a couple of outstanding football games on Friday night. I was over at the Glasgow South Warren game, and you were at the Barren County Greenwood game. And I think you and I both talked about last week going into those games. It was going to be interesting to see how Glasgow performed against a 5A South Warren team. It was going to be by far the best team they had faced all year, by far the most physical team they had faced, and Barren County was facing a situation that we were going to see how they bounce back. They lost that game earlier in the season to Woodford County. That was a physical team, and Greenwood would be a physical team, and the Greenwood would present them problems. We're going to start off with this Glasgow South Warren game, and then we'll second segment here, we'll get to the Greenwood Barren County game. So, real quick about the Glasgow South Warren game. First of all, the things that impressed me about Glasgow, their defensive front, I think I've sang their praises from the beginning of the year.
They lost 21-20.
They lost 21-20.
Great game, though.
It was a great game. But I think I've sung their praises since the beginning of the year, and that, to me, they lived up to the hype, to the beginning of the year, what I expected them to be.
Well, if you had told me before the year that Glasgow would lose to South Warren 21-20, I would be surprised it was that close.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's sometimes you can get victories in losses during the regular season. Now, it doesn't matter at the end of the year. When it's playoffs, you lose. But this is obviously, even though Glasgow did not pull it out, I think they made a great statement in their 21-20 loss because they led most of the game. They were led 14-0 at halftime, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And they were leading until 20 seconds left in the game until South Warren pulled it out.
Mm-hmm.
So in a lot of ways, Glasgow outplayed South Warren for much of the game.
Yeah.
And I think that would surprise a lot of team and a lot of people. There are not many teams in the last so many years has been as good as South Warren.
Mm-hmm.
5A state champions last year. They won 4A state championships.
Yeah, they were probably the best team in the state last year.
That's correct, and very good this year. Now, we have to put one asterisk next to it.
Yeah, we do.
South Warren was out without their quarterback.
Right. And
I didn't know that until somebody texted me I was at the Barren game, texted me. I did not realize that now he's about 6'5", 6'6". He's been offered by Western sophomore. Yeah. And he did not play, and I'm sure that had an effect on South Warren.
Yeah.
Generally, the people you put in replace of those players aren't quite as good. So, in one sense, that was probably a little bit to Glasgow's benefit.
Right.
Nevertheless, you play who you play.
Right.
And it seems like from everything I have heard, that Glasgow played really, really well, and arguably played better than South Warren.
Back to the defensive front, it was as good as I thought it would be.
Glasgow's or South Warren's?
Glasgow's and South Warren's for that matter. Either way you look at it. The key difference being that South Warren has basically a defensive front that only plays defense.
Right.
Glasgow has a defensive front where some of their guys play offense as well. And I think that was the tale of the second half in a lot of ways. South Warren just went to a more physical game. And the passes they did throw were very short passes that their backup quarterback could manage because he couldn't throw the ball down the field. And Glasgow had that sniffed out from the beginning. They had a pick in the first half. They had another one in the second half that looked like it was going to seal the game for them. So Glasgow's defensive front was as good as I thought it would be, and that's good for them going forward.
Well, I think the most impressive thing, what I see with the game, was that Glasgow put 20 points up on South Warren. As far as I know, South Warren was completely healthy on defense.
Oh, yeah.
And
this is a team that held Central to 8 points a week before.
Louisville Central,
and minus 17 yards of rushing.
That's correct. And what they have been known in the history of their school is a great defensive team.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if they've given up 20 points all year.
No.
When you add them all up. So Glasgow putting up 20, extremely impressive.
Yep.
And if you told me beforehand that they'd scored 20, I would have been surprised.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in our pregame show, I actually picked South Warren to win the game 14-7. I knew South Warren's quarterback was going to be out, and I thought Glasgow's defense was that good. But I'm with you. What kind of surprised me, they got the ball by passing the ball. They got the ball to Long and Flint and Hunter Scott, and those guys made plays.
Glasgow struggled running the ball. Nick Mitchell did not have a good game.
Yeah, South Warren was bound and determined there were two things Glasgow was not going to do: run the ball between the tackles, throw screen passes.
And they didn't.
And as a matter of fact, the other thing it seemed they were determined to do is they were going to hit Nick Mitchell when he was on offense. They were going to hit Nick Mitchell when he was on defense. They were going to bring the lumber to Nick Mitchell all night long and to see how he responded. And of course they were. I mean, he's their primary weapon.
Right. Yet Glasgow still managed to adjust. And Tanner Appenethy had to play well to put up 20 points. Yeah,
he did what you need to do as a quarterback. He ran the ball effectively when he ran it. He had a rushing touchdown. He had a run for a first down late in the game that looked good for him. And then the other thing he did was he managed to he threw the passes to Long. He hit Hunter Scott on a couple of slant routes that were fantastic, and that was part of the field. South Warren gave them something, and Glasgow was able to take advantage of it. And that's, again, those things bode well for them going down the road, because they're going to regular season. They're going to see Taylor County, Franklin Simpson. That's the next two teams they face that are going to be their toughest matchups. But if they manage to get through those first two rounds of the playoffs, they're going to see somebody like DeSales, Christian Academy of Louisville, somebody of that caliber.
I can promise you they will not face a better defensive team.
Oh, no. I can't imagine anybody on their schedule will be better defensively than South Warren.
That's correct. Yeah. Listen, after the victory, regardless of whether or not South Warren had their quarterback or not, if they can score 20 on South Warren, lose 21-20, then that, to me, in my mind, puts them as a serious factor winning the 3A state title, barring injury. Yeah, barring major injuries.
That's right. And Abernathy got hurt like in the last minute of that game Friday night. I have no idea what his status was. It may have just been, a stinger in the moment. It looked like he hit his hand on a helmet when he's throwing a pass.
Yeah.
And so, I guess we'll find out how that goes. They play at Adair County this Friday. They should be able to win that game whether Abernathy's there or not.
Yes, I'm pretty confident in that one. Well, the frustrating part for Glasgow, though, is that in a lot of ways they had every opportunity to win.
Yeah.
They made I believe I'm right, they made an interception up 20-14 with about 2 minutes to go in the game.
That's right, and got the ball on South Warren's side of the field off of that interception.
South Warren has 2 timeouts, so they were in position to run out the clock if they could pick up another first down, or stop South Warren if they do get the ball back.
Yeah, and
South Warren basically showed their class.
They did.
I mean, that's teams that win state titles tend to win games like that.
The funny thing was the clock was running down. It was like, under the 2 minutes, and Glasgow had gotten the first down, and the clock was running, and South Warren did not call a timeout. And I was like, what are they doing?
Saving them.
They were indeed, because I just suspected it was, typically you're going to see a team call a timeout right there, try to get something set, and then call another timeout. But Glasgow kind of made some mistakes that probably helped them out. They were going to have to probably complete a pass in order to make sure that South Warren had to use those timeouts.
Yeah.
They were going to have to get another first down to get the clock low enough. And they weren't able to do that. And then they had a couple of delay of game penalties, which backed the ball up some. And then they went for it on fourth down after Abernathy got hurt. I thought maybe they would try to pooch punt or something, because South Warren didn't look like they were covering that at all.
There's 2 trains of thought on that one. One is you play it safe and you punt it and you make them drive probably 80 yards to beat you.
Yeah,
it's one way. Of course, punts don't always work out either. Ask Michigan a few years ago.
Yeah, well, and South Warren was going to come for it if they were punting.
Yes, Michigan lost the game on a blocked punt.
Right.
And South Warren is really good in special teams.
They are. They had already blocked an extra point earlier.
There you go. So, and the other school of thought is Glasgow had an opportunity to end the game.
Right.
If they get a first down, game's over.
Right.
So you go for it that way. And so, it's different points of view, and normally if the one you pick doesn't work, then
that was the wrong one.
It's going to be the wrong one, So I could But even though they didn't pick up the first down, South Warren still had to go 50 yards?
Yeah, they had to go 56, I think it was,
That's
57.
right.
And on the first play, they ran a hook and ladder.
Good play.
And looked like
chunk.
that was going to go for a touchdown, but then John Carter Myers, who I think had 17 tackles in the game, made a saving tackle.
Good sophomore.
Yeah, he shined on Friday night. Let me just tell you that.
Yeah.
Because he had the tackles. He had an open field tackle earlier in the fourth quarter that looked like it might seal the game for him because it was a fourth down. South Warren was in the red zone down by the 10-yard line. They threw it out into the flat, and he hit that guy as soon as the ball got in his hands. Tackled, turnover on downs. Glasgow, ended up not. Well, actually, I think that was where Glasgow scored to go up 20-14 was after that play. And then he had the interception as well later. I mean, he had a heck of a night. So if anybody was worried about what happened on that fourth down when he got sacked and they got the ball, South Warren got the ball back, he'd done everything he could to that point, to help Glasgow win that game.
It's tough to just walk in a game that late as a quarterback, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you practice as the backup, you've not been in there in that position in a game like that, especially.
Yep.
Physical, at that pace for the early part of that game.
Well, I think it's fair to say the community needs more games like that.
I would have to agree. That was a lot of fun, and it's a good year when you see that kind of game. I would like to see Glasgow. I mean, playing South Warren's a tough ask year in and year out, but it's not a bad thing to do. Playing Franklin Simpson year in and year out is a tough ask, but it's not a bad thing to do. I wish their district was a little bit stronger, and I wish.
Well, that's something they can't control.
No, they can't control that. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is the front end of their schedule. You're talking about programs that are usually good, but they're not right now.
Right.
They're struggling right now. And with these RPI ratings that are going to be applied to the playoffs this year and going forward, Glasgow's going to have to really examine its early schedule and figure out, who it can play, because I imagine Glasgow's coaching staff is a staff that believes it should be a title contender every year.
Right.
And to do that, though, you're going to have to play a schedule that's at that level.
Yeah, and it's a balance because it's kind of like baby bear soup. You want it just right. You don't want to play the South Warrens every week because you'll get beat up. And you can't afford to get beat up by the South Warrens, the Bowling Greens, the Franklins, and so forth. So it needs to be that balance between strong teams and teams that aren't going to challenge you as much physically.
You got me all chalked up with that baby bear soup. So. Made me choke on my water, John. Yeah, that's right. And that's going to be something too we're going to talk about here shortly with Barren County is their schedule. Because they have the opposite problem of Glasgow. Their district is going to be real strong.
Every year. And especially like this year, I mean, Central Hardin and North Hardin are two of the best teams in 6A in the state. Looks like in their previous district, they had Bowling Green and South Warren, so it was the same scenario. So that means they've got to figure out what their balance is going to be with their schedule. And, when this 2-year cycle, because these schedules will be re-examined in March. Looking forward to the 2021-22 seasons. So, but back to what you said, I'd love to see more of these kinds of games in our community. And as a matter of fact, I'd love to see that Glasgow-Barren County game again. Right. And this date that these two just played is the one that looks like it would be available in the next 2-year cycle. Because Glasgow ended up with South Warren because they couldn't find anybody. I'm not sure if that was the case necessarily with Barren County and Greenwood, but that would seem to be the date where you're trying to find somebody. I know there are other schools around the state that are in these 5-team districts or in these kind of funky districts. They have a date like that where they don't have a district game, but a lot of other people do, and so you don't have many teams to choose from in order as who you're going to play. Well, this is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, Barren County had a great comeback on Friday night. And I tell you, one of the things that I was curious about the game, and you and I talked about this last week, was to see what the Trojans had learned since the Woodford County game. They beat Metcalfe County to open the season. They scored first against Woodford County. And then Woodford started running the ball basically down the middle, and Barron struggled to stop that. And we were pretty sure Greenwood would do something similar because that's just basically what their offense is anyway. And they were up 16-6, and then Barron got, I guess Tyler Bush got an interception return for a touchdown, and they just made big plays after that, which is just generally in the history of Barren County football has not been the case. So it's great to see them turn this corner.
Yeah, it's the best win that we've had, and I don't know, it's been a while since we've had a quality win. I mean, it was a quality win, and because Greenwood has a good team. And it kind of validated, it puts Barron at 5-1, and some of the wins this year. I mean, we were just better than Metcalf and Monroe, Adair, and Hancock. We were just better. We have more talent, but this was the game that I thought was a game that kind of validated how that we've got a pretty good football team, to be honest with you. And to come back and get the win was even better because it showed some mental toughness and so forth. Tyler Bush was tremendous. I mean, he's had a great year all year, and he's a 4-year starter. But some of the plays that he makes game-changing plays. He scored the first touchdown on a little counter play, about a 30-yard touchdown. Greenwood bounced back. It was actually 3 touchdowns to 2. Green was up 16-6, and they'd scored 2 touchdowns and made 2 extra points. That's the 16, and we had scored a touchdown and missed ours. So it was 16-6 at halftime, and Barron got it, went 3 and out. Kicked it to Greenwood, and here comes Greenwood starting to it looked like to take over the game a little bit. They were marching down to go up 3 touchdowns, and Tyler Bush, he's had touchdowns off kickoff returns, punt returns, interception returns, you name it, and he's had them. And this was his second interception return where he made a great play and scored on, I think, a 65-yard touchdown interception return. And that got us right back into the game, down 16-13. Yeah. And when it looked like we may have been on the ropes, that was the momentum changer. Defensively, we played pretty good. Now, we gave up. Greenwood had 2 100-yard rushers, and they're really good. But they turned it over 4 times.
It's always helpful.
Yeah, actually, they fumbled at 6. We got an interception and 3 fumble recoveries, and that was a big difference. It kind of stopped a lot of their momentum and things like that. So that was a big deal. And of course, the game-winning play was Jamison Bowie with about, I guess it's 5 minutes to go in the game. First time he'd ran it all night, and it was one of those read pass run option RPOs. And he faked it to Holloway, who carried it about 25 times. And everybody, I mean the entire, all of our guys blocked going right. All of Greenwood went right, and he went left. It's tremendous ball handling. Yeah. And really, if you even watched it on film, most people didn't even see what was going on. Yeah. And he scampered 40 yards for a touchdown, and it took a lot of guts because he had to make that call. It wasn't a flat just bootleg where it's a call. He had that option. First time he showed it all game, goes in there, and then the defense holds him in a huge win, 19-16.
I got to catch the post-game interview and Arnett talking about that play and the fact that apparently the play had been set up since the third quarter, basically what he was describing, and they had told Bowie, at any point in time, you can keep it, you know what I mean, and you can go with it. And then he didn't do it, and then when he did, it paid off big time, which I thought was...
Well, it takes courage. Yeah. Because you have to make that decision, you have to read the defense and then be willing to be the GOAT or have the courage to make the play. And for a sophomore, I've been so impressed with his play all year, his poise. He did an interview after the game, I think, with Channel 13 or whatever. He's just very, very calm and poised. Not just for a sophomore, it's for a high school kid in general. I mean, he looks like a quarterback in terms of you want your quarterback to be able to sit there and answer questions and be poised and so forth, and that's who he is. Yeah. And listen, we got kind of thought we was going to have I had a shot at having a decent year because we had all of our offensive linemen back. Yeah. That always helps. got most of our defense and linebackers back. That always helps. Got the transfer in, Holloway.
Yeah.
And the unknown factor was Jamison Bowie.
Yeah.
And he has answered. You know, he has been better than advertised.
Yeah. Well, and I mean that's pretty spectacular for him, because I figured he had a pretty good chance to be a good quarterback, because everything you hear about him is he's a calm kid. He's a kind of a leader on the field, but not vociferously, just by how he conducts himself.
Correct.
And that seems to be the case all the way around. And you go back, you mentioned Holloway carried the ball about 25 times. You guys are reaching that point, Barren County's reaching that point of people are like, all right, we've got to stop Holloway, which is probably right, but that opens a door for Bowie and for Bush and for other players now to have a chance to make big plays.
Yeah, we have more than one option. I mean, Tyler Bush is really good too.
Yeah.
So both of those kids have scored 90% of our touchdowns. But I mean, it was, realistically, I think it's fair to say if we were going to get 6 wins this year, have a winning record, this was a game you had to have.
Yeah.
Because the district's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Meade is probably not as good as Meade's been in the past, but Meade's still not bad. I mean, they lost 31-7 Friday, but that was to Louisville Central.
Right.
Louisville Central's really good. North Hardin and Central Hardin are top teams in the state.
Yeah.
That's your district, so it's going to be hard to pick off one of those. But to get a victory over Greenwood, a team that I guess I underestimated, because we were going over. Jay Turner was talking before the game on the air. I think we defeated them in 2013, but I think we'd lost 10 out of our last 11 to Greenwood.
Yeah.
Been
a long time in the district with them.
Well, you assume, everybody knows how dominant South Warren and Bowling Green is, but we still lost 10 out of 11 to Greenwood.
Right.
So to get that win's a good win, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back through the history of Greenwood football, they've kind of been like Barren County in the sense that they've been in the same district with the same people forever, and those other people in that district have just been good all that time. And so they may have been good and still been a 500 team and been, 1-3 or 1-4 or whatever in the district, because the district was so strong.
That's right.
And another thing about that particular win, along with the comeback, is that Barren gets this Friday off. Then they play. They're about the only game. They are the only game in the area on October 11th, and that's going to be a big game because that's the first time they play in that 6A district. Host Central Hardin, which is putting up about 50 points a game. And I don't know if Central Hardin really cares too much about defense, because it looks like they give up about 30 a game.
Against good teams.
Yeah, against good teams. But they score against those good teams, too.
Right.
They certainly can put up the points. So that's going to be a big night. I'm sure everybody and their mother will probably be at that game. I know it's on the Friday of fall break, but that'll
hurt the crowd.
It will hurt the crowd.
That'll hurt the crowd.
And it's,
it hurts student body. I mean, it's not the ideal situation, but it is what it is. They didn't really have a lot of control over it this year.
Right.
But there's nothing. In one sense, the bye weeks this week going into the bye is good in the sense of you can't feel any better about yourself than they are right now.
Right.
5-1.
Yeah.
And it makes where it was possible if you're 1-5, who wants to practice on your bye week?
Oh yeah, right.
I mean, who wants to practice for that? But when you're 5-1, coming off that win, it's a little bit more enjoyable.
Yep. Yeah, that's what we always talk about. That I mean, football's about the Friday nights and not about the rest of it.
That's right.
But yeah, you're right. When you're 5-1 and you have a big win like that, come from behind win, the energy level is going to be a lot higher.
That's correct.
But anyway, so that October 11th, our ESPN game night will be there for that. The U.S. Army game night will be there for that. Me and Brian Webb. And I think there's potentially some other stuff going on. I don't know what the finalization is on that stuff related to the U.S. Army. So it's going to be a big night. I hope there are enough people in town to come enjoy it. But I imagine everybody who is in town will likely be there for that game.
I agree.
Well, this is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back to talk about college football.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, college football teams for us had a mixed bag on Saturday. We had WKU with a big win at home against UAB, the defending Conference USA champions.
Big win.
And we had the University of Kentucky just get totally beat down by South Carolina.
And Louisville didn't play.
And Louisville took the week off. They were smart. Because we don't know how it would have gone for them if they'd played. But I mean, let's start with the WKU win, because we just talked about Barren County's big comeback, winning a game that we were was a measuring stick for them to see where they are and that kind of stuff. I would say the same thing with WKU. They opened that with the season with the loss to FCS Central Arkansas at home.
And what's the defense?
Yeah, and it's the deep. Well,
and now the defense is, since that first loss, has played really good.
Yeah, they really have played good, and so anyway, they have played really good, and that's key to their success so far, because they lost the game to Louisville, but their defense actually played, I thought, pretty well against Louisville.
Yeah, they gave up. One was an offensive, was a defensive touchdown by Louisville. That doesn't count against Western's defense.
Nope. And then they come back. UAB is supposed to have one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, and they do a good job against him. They have one of the best receivers in the conference. They do a good job against him. And then they had, I think, 4 interceptions in the game.
Yep.
So, I mean, their defense is shining bright. And we had the Topper tailgate on Saturday, and one of the things that we talked about was the fact that, and you and I have talked about this too, when Mike Sanford was at WKU, we could see that there was a talent drain that had occurred, but the defense looked fairly solid.
Talent drain was mainly on offense.
Yes, it was. And it looked like they had good plans on defense. It's just that their offense never could do anything right to help their defense out.
Right.
And you just can't ask your defense to shut everybody out. It's not going to happen. Or even just hold them to 10 points or whatever. Your offense has got to score, got to do something. What we see now at Tyson Helton is that there is some sort of plan. The offensive talent still is not terrific, but they are not punishing the defense. You know what I mean? They are making just enough plays that the defense can win the game for them. The offense just has to hang around until they can figure something out.
Well, and Ty Story came in and was okay.
Yeah, he was.
He got his first start. He's the Arkansas transfer.
Yep.
Threw 2 touchdowns, or at least he ran one and threw another one.
Yeah, he had a touchdown and 2 interceptions passing the ball, and he ran for a touchdown.
Yeah, his first throw of the game was wasn't an interception, it was a fumble.
Yeah,
I think so. It got off to an inauspicious start.
Right.
But he settled in there. You could tell he's played at the SEC level because he settled in there, and he wasn't spectacular, but he was just good enough.
Yeah.
The one thing with Coach Helton, I'll say this: he acted like, even before the year, but even between the bye and this 2 weeks, that he wasn't for sure who was going to be the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
And he bragged on all 3, and he is, even at the start of the year, he has given the impression that he's going to play. He may play multiple quarterbacks. Well, so far, whoever starts plays.
Yeah, that's right.
They've not. He goes with, generally he's not. And I don't think you can be running quarterbacks in and out of the game. I'm not a big fan of that.
I'm not either, because I think of quarterbacks as I do like shooters in basketball. You got to let them get a rhythm.
You do. I agree.
I mean, if you have a shooter that misses his first 3 shots and you tell them to stop taking shots, or you take them out of the game, they're never going to get warmed up
unless they're just.
That's streaky?
No, unless they're just really bad, like the UK quarterback.
Oh my God, he was.
And then you have to make a change. But this was a good win, and it looked like, I didn't see the attendance at Western's game, but it looked like what I saw on TV, that it was a pretty good crowd.
There was a good group. There was a lot of people there. It was the Parents' Weekend.
Yeah. And
so I'm sure that bolstered the attendance. But it looked like there were also a lot of people going to the game while we were out there. So it looked like a good crowd for the game. And that's a good thing. I'm glad that they got that win in front of the crowd, instead of, this is their first home game since that disappointing loss to open the season. So it was good that the crowd came back.
Puts them 2-0 in the conference.
That's right. And, I think right now Conference USA is 0-19 against Power 5 teams. So that puts them basically at the bottom in college football.
I mean, that's not shocking. Now, Louisiana Monroe had, they had Florida State beat.
Yeah.
They're in their conference, I believe, right? Is Louisiana Monroe?
They may be Sun Belt.
See, that's my fault. That's where it gets confusing.
But you might be right, because I never can remember who's where these days.
That's exactly right. I'm probably wrong on that one then.
Maybe it's Louisiana Lafayette that's in Sun Belt.
All right, I apologize.
No, don't apologize to the state of Louisiana. They don't know which conference they're in either.
It is confusing. It is.
Yeah. I mean, because you got North Texas is in the Conference USA, and they're a former Sun Belt team or whatever. I mean,
Rice,
we don't know.
I know it's hard to keep up with. Nonetheless, good win.
Yes, it was a good win for them. Going back to what I was actually going to say about the 2-0 in Conference USA is that is a really good start in Conference USA, because it looks like Conference USA might be struggling this year. So, if they want to try to get into a bowl, that kind of thing, they're going to have to basically win out in the conference, and have the wins necessary.
Still have Marshall, Middle, and Florida Atlantic are generally pretty.
Yeah, you would think FAU's still going to be tough this year. Marshall's going to be tough. Middle Tennessee maybe. I mean, it'll be a tough game for WKU because it's a rivalry game, but they don't look like they're too swift this year either. So, Conference USA looks like I said, it looks like it might be down. Well, let's get to Kentucky, because they're playing in the SEC East, which is supposed to be down. I don't know. Florida's still ranked number 10. I don't know why. And Tennessee is not good. South Carolina has not been good. And so Kentucky, the door is open for them in the SEC East, and they are just laying goose eggs at the moment.
Well, when they lost their quarterback, it seems like that was
it, huh?
Well, in one sense, I thought Smith played pretty well against Florida.
I did too.
I thought he put them in position to win. But since that time, he did not play well against Mississippi State.
Nope.
At all. And I don't do this very often. I felt sorry for him Saturday. I thought he should have been benched for his own, not just for his sake, but for the team. I have no idea why Stoops played him as much as he played. Now, he's either hurt. I know he's banged up, but he's either hurt a lot worse than are letting on, or he really, really has gotten worse in the last 3 weeks.
Well,
because he was making throws, it weren't even close. I mean, I think he's 18 for his last 61.
He threw an interception where there was a guy wide open, and he threw it to the guy. I don't think he was throwing it to that receiver. I mean, because I saw it, and it looked like he overthrew him. But then you watch it again, it literally looked like he threw it to the South Carolina defensive.
And you
player.
never want to blame one player, but you can't win at really any level, much less SEC, when your quarterback plays that bad. And he
looked pretty frazzled.
He did. I mean, it's what I was confused with from a coaching perspective is he looked like, to me, his body language was he looked defeated to me.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm surprised they kept putting him out there, because he has almost like it was like a cry to go ahead and take me out. I mean, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And why Coach Stoops kept with him, I was a little surprised. Other than, I tell you what, the third string quarterback, who is from Lexington, his last name it's Walker Woods. He's an all-state player at Lafayette.
Yeah.
They must have no confidence in him. I mean, he should have gotten the game.
Yeah.
They didn't. Not only did he not get in the game, when they eventually made the quarterback change with about 4 minutes left in the game, they went with the wide receiver. They put Lynn Bowden in at quarterback.
Yeah.
Lynn Bowden had the last 2 series of the game, and maybe that's what they're going to go with. But it's still, you would think Walker Woods is on scholarship.
Right.
I mean, I'm surprised he didn't give him any chance at all. I mean, if I'm Walker Wood, I'm very disappointed, confused, or whatever, because they, even at the end of the game when the game is over with, they went with a wide receiver.
When South Carolina went up 24-0 in the fourth quarter, I felt like that was when they needed to make the change, because the next series after that, I'm with you. Smith just had this. There was a sack where I think he just fell down before the guy got there. I mean, the guy fell on top of him. But he kind of made like he was going to escape, and it's like he just gave up.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like I mean, like he gave up like he was just tired of being hit.
Right.
And
I don't think Kentucky's that bad. I mean, their defense played okay, but they weren't great. But after a while, it's discouraging when you're out on the field the whole time, and I'm sure it's discouraging as a defense when they've got eyes, and when they're looking and they go, "There's no way we're going to score."
Yeah.
The way I mean, seriously, it really is. So they have got to get that fixed. Now I don't know. It may be something that you can't fix.
Oh yeah.
Because anymore in college football, you're probably only going to have one good quarterback, and the only other quarterback that you got is probably going to be a true freshman. Now, if that true freshman is a hit, that's great.
Yeah.
But quarterbacks transfer all the time now. I mean, you can't really keep two good quararterbacks on your roster.
Because if they're halfway decent, they go somewhere else and play.
That's all they do. They leave. I mean, it's just like we're gone.
Yeah.
So they're in. I understand college coaches are in a tricky. It's kind of a tricky situation about. How do you manage that situation? Because you can go from really good to you're in trouble.
One of the things about Kentucky going forward, because they're not getting Wilson back, so they have to figure out not how to get Smith prepared physically for the games, but I think mentally at this point. I mean, that's what it looks like. And I'm not saying that. I don't know the guy. I'm not saying anything about his.
I think he's hurt. Yeah, I think he's hurt.
There's something. There's something up with him physically where he's just not. He's not. He doesn't feel like he's capable of playing. It looks like.
Yeah.
Just based on his body language, like you said, and some of the throws he threw were not close.
Right.
And he, like you said, he actually looked pretty good in that first game and looked accurate. I mean, if that was nothing else, he wasn't going to throw the ball down the field like Wilson. But those short passes, he was nailing them. And against South Carolina, he wasn't hitting a lick.
No.
And so either they got to figure out how they're going to get him back physically and mentally ready to play,
or they got to get somebody else ready.
Yeah, they're going to have to play somebody else. And are they about to just go to the Wildcat and put the receiver in there and just?
Well, then they can't beat anybody any good.
No,
but if you want to go that direction,
that's basically like flushing the season. It's over.
It's over.
Yeah.
I mean, you may beat Vanderbilt, Tennessee, maybe, but you can't win that way anymore.
Man, they aren't beating anybody based on how the offense played against South Carolina. Correct. I mean, because South Carolina's hasn't been a world beater thus far in this season.
No, they're not bad, but they're on their second quarterback too.
Yeah. Well, this Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, golf got kicked off today. The girls' golf regional started today.
Had a nice toasty day for them.
Yeah, and it's going to be even hotter tomorrow when the boys play over at Hidden Hills, and they don't have trees over there. So
October 1st tomorrow. Nothing like 96.
I know. Look, man, I think in Louisville last week, Thursday or whatever, they broke the heat record, and I think they're aiming for it across the state tomorrow.
When it's hotter in Glasgow on October 1st than it is in Las Vegas, something's not right.
Man, and look, you don't have grass, do you?
What?
At your
yeah, I got
place?
grass. Yeah.
Do you mow your grass?
Yeah. Well, I don't mow it, but I got somebody else that mows it.
I guess my point is
I've got AstroTurf.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if they had grass for you out there or not.
Yeah.
Well, I got 3/4 of an acre, and it's beginning to look like a dust bowl out there.
Yeah.
So and I don't water. I'm not going to use my water to water my lawn. I don't have that level of my yard's got to look a certain way kind of person. But that's also brutal on a golf course. I mean, because it's got to stay wet enough that the grass can, be cut and manicured, and greens kept at a certain pace, and fairways at a certain length, and the rough in a certain condition. I am sure that is not very easy with the weather they have going on. And then we're out there playing in this, regional tournament with the people out there. So the girls were at Crosswinds today. Like you said, it was a nice swelterer.
That's in Bowling Green.
That's in Bowling Green. It is kind of fascinating.
Next to the airport.
Yeah, it's like just off of Scottsville Road, and you can't see it. So when you get out there, you expect to hear Scottsville Road, but it's actually pretty quiet out there.
Right.
So it's kind of neat.
It's flat.
It is. It's
very flat. There's not a ton of trees on that course, but it's flat.
There's a couple of shades.
So tell us what happened. Who won?
Well, South Warren's girls were the team winners. That's not a shocker.
They've been good all year.
Yep, they're, I think, the number 3 team by the stat rankings.
And I'm guessing Faith Martin probably won the tournament.
Yes, she was the only person to shoot under. She shot a 70. And she, I think, is number 3 herself in the, what turns out to be the Miss Golf rankings is what it is.
So South Warren won.
Yep. Glasgow was runner-up.
Okay, that's good for them.
But here comes the hook. So in the past, the top 2 teams from each region qualified for the state.
Always have done that.
Yes.
Every year.
Not this one. Not this year.
Every year since the beginning of golf, they take the winning team and the runner-up team, and then they go next week and they compete in the state tournament. 24 teams.
That's right.
12 regions, 24 teams.
Yep.
Okay, so what now? What happened now?
So now we've got 12 teams, and then the next 7 qualifying individuals out of each region.
So the Kentucky High School Athletic Association decided to cut competition this year.
Yes, that is correct.
It's only taking 1 team.
Yep, out of each region.
I don't like that.
A lot of so
this has all to do with slow play, right?
Yeah, they pace of play. They thought the tournaments were taking too long and all that kind of stuff. All right, so here's my thing. There are 2 things. One is back in February when they first handed down the changes they were going to make. The change they were going to make was they were going to keep taking 2 teams from each region, but they were
only
going to
play 4.
Yeah, so what would happen is you might have 5 golfers playing for your team, 4 scores count for the team score, but those 5 golfers would get to go on to state if your team qualified for state. They were going to cut one of those between the region and state level, make the coach make the decision or whatever.
Oh, God forbid.
God forbid the coach would have to make that decision, yes. Well, a lot of people threw a fit about that. So come back around in July, they decided, well, we'll let you take 5 golfers, but we're going to cut 18.
So
take that.
So basically 60 less kids get to go.
Yes. And so, well, it's probably not quite 60 because what they did was before there were
they added more individuals.
Yeah, so you would have 2
at least
teams
35,
and 4 individuals.
At least 30.
Yeah, so you would have 14 players out of each region previously.
Yeah.
Now you will have 12 players out of each region. So they cut 2 basically from each region.
I don't like it. And the reason why I don't like it, and I didn't like it when they first did it, is that there are really good teams in this area that deserve to go. There's really good teams in Louisville and Lexington.
Yeah.
And some of these far regions, to be honest with you, I don't know if they got 2 quality teams.
Probably not.
And but that's why, and the other hand, that's why they do it in basketball. That's why they do it in other sports.
I always love
if they took the runner up in basketball, I'd have gone 8 times. Rather than 3.
Well, you need to write them a letter, John, that you got ripped off.
But I do feel bad because Glasgow had a really good team. I
think they were 10th. I think they were ranked 10th in the state.
If they got to the state tournament, I think they would have made the cut.
Yep.
And would have challenged. They probably wouldn't want to win the state if you couldn't win the region, but they had a shot at a top 10 finish.
They did indeed. And here's another thing about that particular part of it is. There have been occasions talking about 2 good teams out of a region.
Runner-ups have won.
Yeah, have won the state title.
That's correct.
And I think it's happened more than people probably realize if they were to just go back, because we've had years. I think it was in the 12th region or 7th region where you had 2 teams and they were the 2 best teams in the state.
There have been tons of time where the runner-up in our region goes to the state tournament and beats the winner of the region.
Yeah.
That happens all the time.
Yeah.
So Glasgow's second, Barren was third, is that right?
That's right.
Then that's been consistent all year.
Yeah.
Those teams have Barren, Glasgow, and South Warren have been the top 3 teams all year. Do you have the scores of the kids or?
Yes. Well, I have I have them on my phone here. But also, what I was going to say is the individuals who made it. So Abby Lee shot 71.
She's a qualifier.
Yep, she's a qualifier.
Does that put her second in the tournament, right?
Yes, she was second. She was second. And Connor Geralds of Monroe County was third. She shot 73.
Great.
Allie McCoy shot 76 from Glasgow. So she made the cut. And then Bree Russell shot 81.
Barren, she makes it.
Yep. And then 3 girls from Greenwood shot 80, 84, and 86, and they made it as well. So those are the 7 individuals that will go with the South Warren players.
I will say normally, from a Glasgow point of view, you got 2 kids shooting in the 70s, you're normally win a region.
That is true. And also, I mean, the thing about that is Allie McCoy is the number 3 on the team. Nina McMurtry's the number 2. She faltered a little bit, but Allie McCoy made up the differences today. So yeah, usually if it wasn't for the fact, I mean, South Warren had 3 golfers shoot in the 70s, Faith with the 70, and then I think Stahl and another one shot like 76 and 78.
That's
something
rare.
Like that.
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean that's really good.
I think Carly Duck was shot 87.
Yeah.
So she was the second Barren County golfer that came in.
Yeah, the other scores for Barren, we have Marley Shirley shot 91, Lily Shipley shot 91, and Taylor Gauntz shot 92, and Delk shot 87. And then for Glasgow, real quick here, I'll get this for you.
Lee 71.
Yep, Lee 71, McCoy 76. McMurtry and Bailey Birdsell both shot 88, and Grayson Flat shot 95. I mean, those are all good scores.
Right.
Anything below 100 in these regional tournaments on a girls' golf team is usually a pretty quality round. But back to like you were talking about, you know, we've talked to coaches, athletic directors about the changes that they made to the football playoffs. Okay, and this has been a year of a bit of controversy for the KHSAA in terms of how it's handling the playoffs. And I don't think the controversy is so much the changes themselves. It feels like they're just springing changes on people.
Yeah.
Without them, like there's a discussion that goes on, but then they make these changes, and it's like, it's not we're going to make a change for this cycle 2 years down the road. It's like, we're making this change for next year. And that affects kids that are in school right now.
What's odd about this decision is that normally they do everything they can, in my opinion, almost too much.
Yeah.
To where they don't want anybody to fail.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
everybody gets a medal playoffs time.
Six classes of football, which is way too much. We were talking about that. They've started all these other sports that some of them aren't even sports, to be honest with you. It's competition. You know,
you're not into the people playing video games as a sport.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Okay,
but
I feel like you were not referring to bass fishing or archery.
But in this case, they're actually taking away an opportunity, which I think is a little odd.
Yeah, I mean it's
inconsistent. It's counter to what they've been doing.
And you know, it's like they had. It's like this. They said, we're going to change the golf playoffs, period. They put out a plan. Everybody reacted to that plan. They came back and said, okay, fine, we won't do that, but we'll do this, which was more drastic.
I would rather them have done, and I'm just thinking out of the box, go, we're going to take 2 teams from each region, except we're going to have a qualifying score.
Yes, a minimum.
A minimum. If if you're a second place team and you can't score, say, 400, then you don't get to come.
Yeah. Now, you know, people. Here's what would happen with that, though, is there would be people who said, well, we had to play our region at Dale Hollow.
I understand that.
And that's...
But there's, in our region and in the Louisville region, Lexington region, both whoever qualifies are going to score under that score.
We had Mike Harris on here last week, and we talked about the quality of girls' golf in this area of the state. Now, the boys' golf has been good as well, but the girls' golf has been on par with any other area of the state, no matter what, no matter where you're looking at.
That's correct.
Over the last 20 years, and maybe even 25 years, if you go back even further than that. I mean, you can go a long way back. You can find female golfers from Monroe County, from Barren County, from Glasgow, from Greene County, from Taylor County, who have competed at the highest level at the state.
And
I mean, you can go back a long way in the history of girls golf and find this.
That's correct. And boys is tomorrow.
Yep, tees off. I know Barron tees off at 9. I think everything tees off at 8. In Tompkinsville, Hidden Hills. So get on over there and check it out. It's Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.